Hey, hello, people. Welcome to another edition of the House Coat Chat. I am your host, Justice Truth, the dude in the house coat. All I have to say at the beginning of this video is I haven't said it in a while. I don't believe is that I am just a dude in a house coat, a guy who spends a lot of time online looking at the news and politics of everything that's going on in this world. And I just have to say that the majority of us in Canada really have to see and hear what is going on in the world, folks, because there we go. I got my sound in my earmuffs. I had Bluetooth on my iPad. Forgive me for that. I was a little concerned about my sound. I didn't think my microphone was on. I wear hearing aids, Bluetooth on my iPad. The iPad is on because I have some information I want to share with you people and all that. But guess what, folks? Happy Monday. That's right. Let's not always be worried about doom and gloom and everything else, even though a lot of stuff that I put out on here is kind of gloomy, but it's important. And the reason I bring these things up is that I, as a person who has time on my hand, able to search and look at stuff, whether I'm using the search bar on my computer, on the iPad, or whatever, or actually reading a book. You can kind of see a book there that Ivan, I can't pronounce his last name properly, famous person who's wrote many books and historical references. A Day in the Life of Ivan Devinovich, I believe that book is called. You remember I read a book, Dad's The Parasitic Mind. Very good book. I had to return it to the library because it was due. I highly recommend reading it because it really does dive down to the problem our society is facing now. We're trying to be nice to everybody and accommodating to everybody. And look what we have going on in this world, right? But first, folks, I just want to remind everybody today is Monday, obviously, but there are some election stuff going on in Canada. 3 by-elections, folks. The Liberal convention is just over, and also announcement that another Edmonton MP in the federal election, or the federal bureaucracy of our governance, has been approached by the Liberal Party himself, caught on a hot mic that I heard this morning. So yes, folks, I don't want to say, folks, that yes, people, I'm telling you right now that this country that had its election, that elected a minority government, even though we have 3 by-elections coming up, because one is Christia Freeland, one is the court order because of a mail-in ballot, one vote or whatever it was in Quebec City, or Quebec province, and not riding, and I'm not sure where the other riding is. It might be in BC, I'm not sure. But one thing I found very striking is the fact that one riding in Ontario, and I think it might be Freeland's riding, or previous riding, I should say, is that they're plastering Mark Carney's face all over the place. And the woman is running is a person of color. Interesting to note, I think, considering I know Carney's sort of history of being a misogynist person towards the press, and quite possibly his wife, because I see no closeness between the two of them at all, folks. That is awful. It's awful optics as a politician, but he is our sitting prime minister, and it's kind of unfortunate that we have this outsider in our country and all that. So, and I also want to talk to you, and that's why I have my iPad close by, because very shortly, and I may be jumping the gun on actual mainstream media news, but independent reporting, and this is who I'm digging up, and I will hopefully find it here right away. And yes, and I maybe have lost that. I hope I didn't, but I might have. So, unfortunately, what I will tell you is that this little piece of paper is basically going to expand, because if the government of the Liberals actually get a majority after these 3 by-elections, and I really have to go find it, and I will find it again. Yes, I found it. And folks, I don't want to say folks, people, my peeps, My fellow human beings living in this great country of Canada, while we watch it slowly disintegrate into worse and worse and less for the actual citizens that have been here for years and years and years, I have to tell you that the Liberals are preparing what is called a Sanctuary Nations Act to launch after a majority win. And I'm going to be reading, that's why my glasses are on instead of sunglasses today. And this is what it states from the official record. And, they may be trying to have a sweeping border overhaul by allowing more immigration into this country because of the Century Initiative. And that is, if you don't know what that is, basically it's a think tank that is basically telling Canada governance, our governance, whether it's from Harper years, and it might even been initiated way back then, is that we want to increase our population to Canada, in Canada, to 100 million by 2100. We're at 42 million, folks. Peeps, sorry, I know I want to get away from that word, and that's why I'm like doing this live, warts and all. You see me, I'm a human being, I'm not AI, and again, like I said, I'm a dude in a house coat, so please, just read or listen to what I have to say and read for yourself. Don't take my word for it, go out there and find it. Anyways, yes, they're talking about increasing the population and all that. And what else can I tell you here? Oh, the border enforcement will be replaced with the trust-based entry system. Get that one. It's like click a button, you're in Canada. Financial disclosure will be simplified to reduce what officials call unnecessary transparency burdens. But public criticism, harmfully obstructive, could be deprioritized across platforms such as X, YouTube, other social medias, and stuff like that. What they're doing is they're going to crack down on our ability to say something against the government when we feel it is wrong. And the government somehow thinks it has the God-given right to govern over us. And in fact, it is what us citizens have given them the privilege to help run our society. It is not a dictatorship where somebody high and mighty should be cracking down on us in a democratic institution. What we have is a slow drip to a dictatorship. And Carney is quite happy about doing that. Now, reading his book Values and seeing what Carney has done, and also seeing all the historical references of him speaking, whether it was with the WEF, whether at Davos, whether it was at the Bank of England, his old videos when he was the Bank of Canada governor, all those other things that go in between, his conversations with Pierre Poilievre regarding stuff that they're discussing that Carney would not disclose before he became prime minister. Basically, it has to do with oil and gas and a few other things. But Carney is very telling, and he is very, very controlling, and he is trying to make his global alliance of net zero a reality by using Canada to be the forefront. Listening to his wife speak at the convention that they had this weekend, saying that we are going to have a new world order, having Mark Carney himself saying we must step away from the Americans. Consider this, folks, and please riddle me this. Why is this man trying to always pick on Orange Man bad, so to speak, or America in general, and saying things like, we don't need them anymore, we are not going to buy from them anymore, and stuff like that. It is amazing, considering most of our trade at the moment, because we are the best neighbor that a country could ever have, and that is Canada with our resources and all that. And we have a hungry hippo down below us, right? It is. It's like the game of Hungry Hippo. They are consuming resources because they want to thrive. They are the number one global superpower. There are other emerging nations and stuff like that, such as China, wanting to run the world. Yes, they do. Why do you think they're so heavily invested in Canada? Like I've said on my shows before, why does China have twice as many delegates, so to speak, lobbyists and whatnot, in the country of Canada with 40 million people, and yet in America, they have at least half that amount that are doing what we call lobbying within the United States. And we have double that amount. We have police stations, folks, from China harassing Canadian citizens. And another thing about the Liberal Convention, it's not really a sidebar, but it's interesting to note, is that Paul Chiang, the former Liberal MP, I should say, running for an MP position, had to bow out of the last election because he basically said, if you call Hong Kong, you may get a bounty on my conservative running mate or my opponent, not running mate, my opponent in this upcoming election. He had to walk away from that, and he put in Michael Ma, of all people, to replace the guy that threatened the conservative with expulsion from Canada if somebody basically says, hey, let's collect the bounty from China, right? West Taiwan, and I like to call it West Taiwan because it's an insult to the Chinese Communist Party, because Taiwan is a democratic country. It should have stayed Democrat. The CCP lied about the Hong Kong thing, or saying that they would have democracy. It slowly eroded. I remember that years ago, watching plenty of all the things that happened that went on in Hong Kong. And Canada is slowly going to be morphed into a China satellite country, because I can already tell you that the security apparatuses, in a way, are already working in Canada. Where is the MOU that we can read that the opposition parties are asking for regarding our security agreement with the Chinese Communist Party of China? Where is that MOU so we all can read what's going on? I shouldn't say we, but the Liberal government is definitely getting a hand from China regarding all the things that are like basically internet related, help on how to try and control dissent online and other things like that. I have been a big fan of China, and I really shouldn't say a fan because I'm critical of China, but that is of the Chinese Communist Party, not of the citizens of China. There is a huge difference. Governance versus people. It's just like in Canada. Our liberals are disgusting people, hell-bent on making sure that we are ruled by liberals. And if you want help, you have to vote liberal. Just like Melanie Jolie basically said on national TV today, if you want money in your riding, you want help from the government, you better vote liberal. I don't think I've ever heard any other kind of political party say that, except maybe a Communist Party member, right? All this is crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Now, everything that I told you about this leaked document, I don't know if it'll come true or whatever, but it's a leaked document, and I'm no doubt the veracity of it. And other than that, I could be wrong, but again, folks, look it up, because we are about to head into a majority government within Canada that has never been done in a lot of years. I'm going to have to say 20 years, roughly. I think that the last time we kind of had a majority government, Stephen Harper really never got a majority government, I believe, if memory serves me correctly, because they had the pro-rogue government and all that, because the opposition parties were ganging up on the conservatives back then. That is history. I'm not going to dwell too much into it, because today, with the 3 by-elections, the possible extra floor crossers that are going to happen, because this is what I personally going to think will happen, is if the by-elections aren't favorable to the Liberals, then we may see more floor crossers, whether it's NDP, Liberals, Bloc, or whatever. We're going to see more of them. And speaking of those floor crossers, that lady that just left to join the Liberal Party, my observations of watching most of the Liberal convention from the clips that I've seen is that she is very, very much self-absorbed, egotistical, vain person. I mean, she made herself a Christian rock or Christian gospel album paid for by herself, because apparently she sings well. I have not actually heard her sing, nor do I care to hear her sing, considering all of her actions, considering how Carney, in my personal view, body language, because I'm hearing impaired, I pick up on tells on people, folks. I don't want to say, folks, I know I'm trying to get away from it. I should have a folk meter. I slap my wrist every time I say it. Anyways, yes, she wants to be the center of attention. She, in fact, she would admit that they wouldn't let her speak at the conservative convention thing for the leadership race a few weeks back. And she's even said it herself, that this is a good move for me as well. Wow. Now let's take a look at the other floor crosser, the one from Inuit country way up north. I don't really want to put it that way, but that's the word that popped into my mouth. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the Inuits, the Eskimos, and everybody that lives up there. You are fine people, and I hope you keep your way of life. Very interesting to see your style of life, especially up there. Polar bears are dangerous. Anyways, yes, she has two children that are in trouble. Is the news saying much about it? Yes, but they don't actually say who the one son is related to. It's amazing how our tax dollar funded folk, not, I almost said it, taxpayer funded, and here we are as citizens of this country, forking our hard earned tax dollars to be manipulated and lied to and have missing information given to us. Remember, this is a law that they struck down in 2018, 2019, just before the arrival of COVID, to allow mainstream media to basically lie to the Canadian public. I know it's hard to take. I could scroll and show you the laws that were taken down by the Trudeau government, but it actually happened. And you have to think, why are they cracking down on independent media people and praising the people that they're paying to make sure that they toe the line, right? I mean, there's a kid named Max Guinness, young fellow. I like him. He is a podcaster, speaks better than me, very articulate, nice young man. I enjoy listening to him. He went to the Liberal convention and he got to ask a whole lot of people questions. He got some answers from some of the people, but most interesting is the person I mentioned earlier from the riding that the person had to give up because he threatened the other conservative candidate. He too was at this convention, and Max asked him some questions about the incident and what he said, and if he has any regret saying what he said. He said no comment, walked away, found a security guard, and the young fellow who's trying to be an independent reporter, a living to make whatever job that he's trying to do, and he is expelled from the Liberal convention or the site for 48 hours because he dare ask a political or a former political candidate about his actions during the last election. And all the other people that are there with the independent media, it is amazing to see that these liberals keep walking away from these people asking good questions. And what it really does look like, because social media at the present time is allowing us as citizens to see this blatant disrespect of not answering questions or being honest with the public, unless it's scripted behind a CBC News or CTV or Global, even the paper like the Toronto Star and a few others. Yes, it is absolutely disgusting that they're not really answering to the Canadian public. We voted you people in. It is a privilege to sit as an MP in the House of the Common People. That is why it's called the House of Commons. Little history there for you folks. Slap my wrist. That's a bit of history. I got to get away from that word. I personally don't like it. I don't want my audience to think that they're always old, because then it's an older termish for a group of people, right? So, anyways, yes, it is awful, awful, awful. Mentioned Mark Carney and his push against the United States. You have to ask yourself why he's doing that. But most of his investments are in the United States. His Brookfield company has moved its headquarters to the United States. They are fighting with our own CRA, which I don't think it's really a fight, because who's the the prime minister of the country, who is somebody that is heavily invested in Brookfield and probably be going back to Brookfield after he leaves politics, is Mark Carney. So I don't think we're going to see a lot of, bad blood, so to speak, with the CRA, the Canadian Revenue Agency, and Brookfield. I'm pretty sure that any taxes that are owed by Brookfield are going to be slid under the rug. And meanwhile, I got to get my taxes done, and I am praying I don't have to pay any extra. I'm already at the very bottom, so to speak. Not really the bottom of the tax bracket, but thanks to my benefits, I am able to live a decent life, although ribeye is less and less. That sucks. But anyways, I know a lot of people are out there are hurting, and yet I still donate to the food bank in my local community and stuff. So Yes, I'm doing okay, but I really wish life could be better. Like, what about his wife? His wife lives in the United States. One of his children go to school in the United States. In fact, Carney flew the private jet of the Canadian government down to go in Martha's Vineyard, basically where his daughter is going to school, to Harvard and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, he's got a pretty comfy lifestyle. Thinking how he treats the people, he has no idea of the actual living in this country is like. He has been so up there in the uppity world. Remember him talking about the financial crisis of 2008 with a bunch of other bankers from around the world, like central bankers, the head honchos of like other banks that are out there. And they're like, well, we had a 7-course meal. We were discussing this and that. It didn't seem like he was really too concerned about the economy back then. But other than the meals that they were getting during the big brouhaha about the 2008 financial crisis. Yes, it's nuts. It is nuts. But let's go skip over to another part of the world, folks. People, let's just go to Ireland and talk about what's going on there. It is like the trucker convoy got a Gaelic accent and went over to the Ireland and UK and are now trying to hopefully break the government of its globalist agenda and crushing of decent small people who are just wanting to make a living. Now, the fuel taxes and all the carbon taxes that are going on in Ireland. Now, I've read this. Now, the veracity of it or the how breakdown of it, I can't honestly tell you. But what they're claiming is that the taxation of everybody in Ireland, from a baby to an elderly person, is about $6,000 per person. The baby can't work. The senior is not working, so the majority of the working people are paying too much tax to live in this country of Ireland. And yet they keep squeezing people and squeezing people, saying, we need this, we need that. It's climate change, global thing, blah, blah, blah. We need to allow people to come here while you're getting less services. There are places in Ireland that had these migrants that are coming over in by boat, and these little communities and villages instantly become a minority in their own country. Now, I've seen images. I know I wish I could show you, but like I said on my show, I don't really want to do that. That's up to you to go look. I'm not trying to tell you it's the truth. I'm just saying maybe you need to read more and look more before you're always like this, because the way life is working and all you see is a little bit of stuff because everything is rapidly fired at us and we get 15 seconds of soundbite per news article basically, and everybody just shrugs their shoulders and oh, they're just protesting a fuel tax over in Ireland. It's not just a fuel tax. There's a whole host of things more going on in Ireland. Conor McGregor, the UFC fighter, is championing the people to try and, peacefully protest the government. I have witnessed the police beating on people there and all that, just very similar to the stuff that happened in Canada. In fact, there are so many similarities that they've caught their own police people trying to start fights in these peaceful protests, just like in Canada. It's so eerily similar, and eerily similar that the lady who's in charge of the Ireland police came from Toronto and the convoy crackdown from Ontario. How the heck does an Ontario woman get a top cop job in the UK of Ireland? Think on that one. Probably her reward for treating the truckers the way they were treated in Ottawa. That's a story for another day. And if you haven't, whatever your opinion of it is, I say we need another trucker convoy on Ottawa. And for not just truckers, I think all of us should go there. I wish our country was smaller, but we're huge. Thanks to the internet, I can spread my voice. Hopefully you hear it. Hopefully you think a little harder. Do a little bit more reading. That's all I'm asking you to do. I'm not telling you to take my word for it again. I know I'm saying it a lot this show, but I think I've missed it the last few episodes, and I just wanted to be a reminder. Because after all, I'm just a dude in a house coat, and I got headphones, I got a microphone, and I got a camera, and I just want to share with you what I know and stuff. So, yes, why are most of his investments in there? Why is his children there? Why does he constantly put down America, but when he goes, sits beside Trump, he grovels? If you haven't noticed that, wow. If you don't notice that he's also under investigation, because he is now the Prime Minister of Canada, he has basic diplomatic immunity. Yes, the House Judiciary Committee on his global alliance of net zero is under investigation for anti-competitiveness tactics, bullying, and a host of other little things that are pro-capitalism, I guess, is the best way to put it. And enough of that stuff. I know I kind of mixed and matched, and I talked a little bit. Sorry about that. That's why I'm doing these shows. I hope to get better each time, but I want you to genuinely understand I'm a human being with a heart and mind that's willing to share with you because I think it's important. You listen, great. You don't, well, carry on. And in fact, you don't even have to watch me talk. You could just put the phone down, your device down, do the dishes, and just have a listen. I mean, I know my background is a bit chaotic and stuff like that. There's a scone and, lit for somebody that you may be missing in your life, or, a worldly event like I like to talk about, or inspiration. Just something I do before I start the show, kind of calm me down a bit and stuff like that. And a reminder that I'm lucky to be here and thankful to the people that have given me advice over the years that have passed on, and a whole host of other things and all that. And I do like to talk and stuff. Now let's get over to the Hungary election, because that just happened, and Viktor Orban is no longer the leader of Hungary. Now, Hungary has been always a thorn in the EU side, and as of today, the elections were last night, folks. The EU lady, Jerusa von der Leyen, I think her name is, anyways, a blonde demon woman, a succubus. I do not like this woman at all, because the people of Europe did not elect her. A small few in the EU Council elected her. And now what they're going to be doing with all the elections that are going on in Europe, so to speak, is that the larger countries are going to get a bigger say in what's going on in the EU, leaving out the smaller countries. That is what's going to happen. Just a day after Hungary, one of the defiant countries in the EU, who didn't want to let the migrants into their communities, who've been paying fines because they won't allow migrants into their community, holding up bills for Ukraine's war efforts, I guess. So yes, the globalists, in my view, Alex Soros, George Soros, if you don't know who those names are, please look them up and look on both sides of the aisle of pros and cons for those two. And I will tell you what, those two are shit disturbers. The elderly and the son are both shit disturbers for years. And the fact that Viktor Orban, who was a very popular person, lost to I don't know how to put it, a pervert. He did something in front of his children that no parent should do. He self-pleasured himself. This is from his ex-wife. And also, he boiled a puppy. I would like to go and boil him in a microwave like he did the puppy in front of his children. He was a huge alcoholic, apparently, but his ex-wife's allegations and stuff that he did, and saying that the children still needed therapy back then. He is now in charge of Hungary. How do you allow a person that twisted in the mind to be even elected? That tells me the globalists have found their new Justin Trudeau puppet. Hate to put it that way. We're going to talk about him in a second. But they now got somebody like him there. And what is the first thing he does when he says he was elected? He says he's going to make sure Viktor Orban doesn't run again. He's going to make laws to prevent Viktor Orban, the previous prime minister, no matter how you think about him, but he's going to try and ban him from running again. He's also going to close down their national television station because he thinks it's too biased, and he's going to reformat it to be more biased. Note what's going to happen is Hungary is going to be swallowed up by the EU. They're a migrant-free country because they were the ones that refused migrants in for the big horde rush that's coming into America from from Africa and the Middle East. Well, that's changed, and that's going to, Hungary is going to regret its decision to vote for this other guy. Now to my favorite old prime minister, who my dad named me after. Just kidding, Dad. But my name is Justin too, same with Justin Trudeau. He's born a little bit before me, I believe. But anyways, he has been hit by allegations from the Toronto Star. The Toronto Star is being sued by a reporter because he found damning evidence from an RCMP whistleblower back in 2021, I believe, about them catching our prime minister at the time looking at some images that are of underage. I don't want to say the words because I don't want YouTube to ban me or flag me. So you get my drift. He was filming on his phone. I mean, he was watching on his phone, apparently, some stuff of underage people that shouldn't be doing and shouldn't be filming. And said that. I know I've been playing with words. I hope you get it. But Katy Perry also today, his girlfriend is being charged with assault of the S kind for going after I guess, another Hollywood actress who was on the Orange is New Black TV show and was on John Wick's, one of the John Wick shows. She accuses of Katy Perry of pulling her panties aside and shoving her female genitalia into the woman's face and rubbing it on her. I think JP and KP, or JT and KP, Justin Trudeau and Katy Perry are made for each other. I can't get over that stuff. I mean, kind of already hinted that Trudeau was kind of a weird one. His history of hanging out with people that like the kitty stuff, it is abundant. It's just like a by-election, folks, that we are having today. There is a campaign staffer who was charged and been criminally convicted of the stuff that I'm kind of hinting at. And in fact, as I read today, and I'm going to end my show here because it's just over 30 minutes, but he apparently was on a group chat encouraging a teenager to show up at his office or the group setting. And for somebody who's like that, I have great concern, but if you're in the Liberal Party, you don't seem to care how low you go to get a vote. Anyways, it is after 31 minutes. I kind of hopefully talked about everything I did. Apologize for sidestepping and maybe mixing up a couple of things, but I am practicing, need a lot of work, and yes, I enjoy doing what I do. Remember, the scone is lifted. You lost a loved one, world event. Well, it's for the people of Ireland to hopefully end their government of being tyrannical and dictatorship over the citizens that voted them in. Please visit an SPCA at least once in your life. And folks, positive vibes, I said, folks. And I will slap my wrist again. I hope you will come along and join me on further episodes as I talk. Anyways, I'm almost petering out and I should end the show. Thank you all for listening. Take care.